Hi, welcome to Car Talk, your favorite car podcast. We hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm your presenter, Juan Pablo Ramos. Today we'll talk about cars that were made for the track and ended up in the streets, fastest cars of the last 50 years, and normal cars with insane engines. Let's get it. First, a word from our sponsors, Mobile One.
La vida está llena de lecciones.
¿Y si lo volvemos a intentar? ¿Por tercera vez? ¡No me vayas!
Hijo, ¿a dónde vas? Si acá tienes tu casa.
Hasta te hicimos tu cuarto en la azotea.
Perdóname, mamá.
¿Qué pasan los goles?
Si ya elegiste tu camino, no te detengas.
¿Con quién voy a jugar ahora?
Por eso elige el nuevo Móvil Super Anti-Friction, que gracias a sus moléculas Friction Fighter, reduce la fricción de tu motor, haciéndote ahorrar hasta 4% de gasolina. Móvil, elige el movimiento.
So, Le Mans. Le Mans is one of the most important competitions in car industry. It's mostly about resistance and how long a car can last. Most of the time, these races are for hours. Some can go through days. For example, Le Mans 24 Hours is a race that lasts 24 hours and has racers going in their cars all day long driving to see who gets to the finish line first. During the 1990s, FIA GT Cup had a rule that all of the participants, the automakers, had to make at least a production model of the car. So every car maker had to do a production model of the car they were using to run the race. The rule was taken out in 1999, but the cars were already produced. Some of the cars are: these cars were the Nissan R390, the Toyota GT1, and the Mercedes CLK GTR in AMG. The Toyota R390 had a V8 engine that produced 550 horsepower. Two models were made. One was used for a crash test, and the other one is at a Nissan museum in Japan. It had a 0 to 100 time of 3.2 seconds, and it produced speed of 354 kilometers per hour. One of its rivals, the Toyota GT1, had another V8 engine with 600 horsepower. Its 0 to 100 time was 3.6 seconds. Only one was made. Not a lot of people have seen it because it's locked down in some Toyota installations in Germany, and it has a 370 kilometers per hour limited speed. Last but not least, the Mercedes CLK GTR had 25 units made, some of them roadsters and another ones coupes. They had a V12 engine producing 655 horsepower. It had a 0 to 100 time of 3.8 seconds and a top speed of 322 kilometers per hour. These were some of the race cars that were made also for the streets. These cars used to compete very frequently on Le Mans GT1 series. They were really fast cars. They were going at least 320 kilometers per hour, but that benchmark of 320 kilometers per hour was the highest speed recorded back in 1980. It was settled by the Ferrari F40. It had a V8 and it was the first car to arrive to 200 miles per hour, 320 kilometers per hour. Only 1,350 units were made, and it had 478 horsepower and a 0 to 100 time of 3.5 seconds, which is still astonishing today. This happened in 1987. After it, the McLaren F1 was the next one to break the record. With a V12 from BMW, it got itself to 391 kilometers per hour. It used 627 horsepower and it had a 0 to 100 time of 3.2 seconds. This happened in 1992. Only 106 units of this car were made, one of them being owned by Mr. Bean. The record of the F1 would take a decade to be broken. It got broken by the Bugatti Veyron in 2005, with a 1000 horsepower engine with 16 cylinders and 4 turbos. It got the car to 0 to 100 in 2.4 seconds and it had a top speed of 408 kilometers per hour. But that was not all. A buffed up version got to the world in 2014. It had 12,000 horsepower and the same W16 engine. It got the car to 431 kilometers per hour. 450 units of this car were made. During the 2000s, Bugatti had to fight a lot to get its place on the top fastest cars list because of the Koenigsegg Agera and the Hennessy Venom GT. Those cars were all fighting to see who was the fastest. Most of their velocities were over 400 km per hour. They had engines that made over 1,100 horsepower. These magnificent engines were very expensive and they were some of the fastest cars. But in 2020, Bugatti got the throne again with the Chiron 300. The 300 comes from the record 300 miles per hour. Only 30 units were going to be made and it had a 490 km per hour record. It uses 1060 horsepower and it has the same W16 engine. It makes 0 to 100 in 2.1 seconds. Moving to our next topic. So you've seen that there are very fast cars and there are normal cars that you see most of the times in the street. But there have been some times that automakers take the cars that they make for normal streets and buff them up with very big engines. For example, the Dodge Demon, which has a V8 engine that produces 880 horsepower. It is the first street legal car to make wheelies. Its production started in 2018. It had a 0 to 100 time of 2.3 seconds. 3,300 units were made. When you think of Volkswagen, you think of normal cars, like the Jetta or the Passat, or the Golf. But what if I told you that Volkswagen once stuck a W12 engine inside a Golf? Yeah, this car had only one unit made. It produced 650 horsepower and it borrowed a lot of parts from different automakers that Volkswagen owns, like Bentley, Audi and Lamborghini. Its 0 to 100 time was 3.7 seconds for a Golf. It was made in 2007. That was all for today. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.